Hello to all my witches, warlocks, and wonders. Welcome back to another live sprint stream. Today we got a lot to cover. Again, we're doing 20-minute sprints, and I got a lot of talking points of interesting things to cover. So let's get on with it. I'm going to roll my little intro. It's still the same opener as before. It's been a busy week. So bear with me, but here we go. All right, for anybody who's new, I'm going to do a quick rundown and explain what we do real quick here, and then we're going to move right into talking points. I'm going to set this up real quick because I had this going. So basically what we do here is I do 20-minute prolific sprints mixed interversed with different talking points. Basically, I talk about a bunch of random stuff because I have a bunch of random interests, but I also need a little bit of discipline to get work done. So that's what I do here. For those of you that don't like the sprints, I do end up clipping this down and just covering the talking points on a video that I usually post. I'm trying to post it regularly on Mondays from now on. So if you are not one of those that like the sprints and just like the talking points, you can come back later and watch that video, or you can hang out with us and maybe get some work done while I yabber in your ear for a little while during talking points. But the 20-minute sprints are effective and efficient for me because basically with my ADHD and my neurodivergence, having myself set on a timer to get work done is a very conducive way for me to work. So I have several things I'm covering. I have on my computer, it's already pulled up, but I'm going to be covering the master notes that I have for my second book, because technically I already did the whole entire outline for the second book. I just got to get it into notes, the master outline on the computer, so that I can do the actual start writing the book in detail. And then the other thing I had to do is last week I started on the tarot quick reference for my Book of Shadows. Well, I made all the little notes for the quick reference guide that I want to do, so I might be doing that today. So we've got that, but for the most part, I'm going to be trying to get some work done on my book. That is how we handle these sprints. So for those of you who are interested in sticking around, hello, hi, how are you? I hope you're having a wonderful Thursday. For those of you that are in Florida, my heart goes out to you, simply because, if you're anywhere in Florida, you just dealt with a very big hurricane, and my heart really does go out to you. Luckily, I have family that was able to evacuate and get to other family's house in Georgia, so I'm super happy about that. They're going to try to get back home today, so we'll see how it goes. I'm actually looking forward to hearing if she is able to get home, because of where she's located. I have a feeling trying to get home for anybody for any Floridian, if you're not already there, is going to be difficult because of the damage that's there. I did hear back from my friends who had to shelter in place, and all of them are good. Most of them are without power. So, still, I'm super stoked that the city of Spokane itself is sending, I think they said 40,000 people or 4,000, something like that, to help with the rebuild of after Helena and Milton. And just for any of you Floridians, just know it's going to get worse. From what my angels are telling me, they're like, this is just the start. Like the next couple of hurricanes, it's just going to get worse and worse and worse and worse until the end of the season. And then it's going to actually cater out. But this will go on record as the worst hurricane season ever. And for all of you that listened when I texted you, because I was able to get the message out to you, I'm glad that you were able to, take extra precaution, because on Sunday night, I knew that they were not predicting this storm the way that they should have been predicting it. And I'm so glad that by Monday, it's almost like as soon as I sent the word out to my friends and family, it's like all of media changed course and was all of a sudden like, okay, this is actually a bigger deal than we expected it to be. So I'm super glad. I'm glad I saw it, and I'm glad that other people caught on, and they did what they did, because this was a bad storm. So that was the first thing I wanted to talk about. So I pray for, I'm sending a lot of protection and healing energy to all of you peeps that I know that are there. So I'm hoping that it worked, and that for the most part, I see it did, and all of you fared pretty well. Also, you guys are very smart, and that a lot of that goes into surviving this kind of thing. The next thing I wanted to talk about was actually another little disaster, or not a disaster, but an interesting turn of events. If I spoke on this topic a little bit on my last stream about the things that are going on basically with solar flares and everything else. And I'm actually, if I can, I am going to share with you real quick. Where are you? The gentleman that I watch here, I'm going to bring I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to bring this up real quick, and I'm going to show you guys, because this is the gentleman that I watch in order to, oh wow, that's not going to work. Okay, so this is the guy. I got to pull this out here. We're going to pull this out, do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do like this. Yeah, it's been a minute, guys, forgive me, but here you go. Okay, so this is the gentleman that I watch that basically tells you all the details that you need to know about the solar storms. And as you can see, if we go to his channel, I am subscribed, as you can see, but he actually just posted a video 1 day ago. As you can see, I watch a lot of his videos, but he is the one that I get a lot of the information on regarding the solar flares and the stuff that's going on with that kind of stuff, and how it actually affects the body, affects the mind, affects the influences that you're feeling and everything else. So if you're kind of interested in that kind of stuff and keeping tabs of that kind of stuff, he's the one that as watching along with him, he's also been noticing this as well, how with each solar flare we're having, there seems to be a correlation with both movement of magma and volcanoes, the size of storms that are happening, and the influences on people. And he's very informative. He knows exactly what he's talking about, and I love the guy. So I use a lot of him to kind of guide readings that I do in different times for different clients. So if you guys are interested and you like that kind of stuff, check his channel out. Like I said, he's really informative and he's really good. Hi, Cora. Hello, my dear. Hi, everyone. My son went back to his appointment, so I am book editing until he is done, or they need me. Very nice. So you're just kind of listening away. Well, that's interesting, because after I do my little talking point where I'm going to continue with this, we're going to jump right into a sprint. So you came in just in time. But the other thing I wanted to mention is, for those of you, hold on, we're going to do that. For those of you that live on the East Coast or the Pacific Northwest, just know that they have recently announced that Mount Baker is now an active volcano. Why is it doing that? Okay. Okay, hold on, guys. There we go. Okay. So Mount Baker here in Washington, they have now upgraded it to an active volcano. I guess they haven't seen movement in this volcano in, I guess, a couple thousand years. Like it hasn't erupted in an extremely long time. And for them, they found it very odd that there's actually magnet movement underneath Mount Baker. And the reason that this is important is because Mount Baker is almost directly in line with Yellowstone. And if you haven't been listening to what's going on in Yellowstone, the geyser in Yellowstone has actually had quite a few eruptions that are record breaking. And it's not, the geyser itself having record breaking eruptions is not exponential. The fact that Mount Baker has been upgraded to now an active volcano is not exponential. However, when you put together all the things that are going on with all the movements of the other volcanoes, the volcanoes erupting in Italy, Popocatépetl, Mexico erupting earlier, the Topanga, as I call it. I know it's not called Topanga. I can't pronounce it, so I call it Topanga. But it's because, Boy Meets World was also my favorite show as a kid. So I correlate things. That's how my ADHD. But Topanga Blue, and these are all it's the energies are very interesting. And even with the heightened level of the way that Russia is acting, and Ukraine and Lebanon and everything that's going on over there, it's almost like with each solar flare, we're getting an impact of some sorts. And so with me, I did some research, and I'm going to pull this up on my phone because I screenshotted it, because I was eager to find. I was like, I wonder what kind of impacts has science proven that these solar flares, like these, the heightened impact, the heightened protons, the magnetic shield changing, what kind of effects does this have on the body, right? And so I looked into it, and it said it actually causes blood flow alterations, cardiac arrhythmia, cardiovascular upgrades, epileptic seizure increases, and increases in blood pressure, and increased incidences of myocardial infractions. So people have more heart attacks during this time. Then it also disrupts the body's nervous system in general, and it can cause headaches, palpitations, mood swings, and a general feeling of unwell. And I was like, if this has been something that has been numerous, we've had major impacts, at least 4 or 5 since the beginning of this year, and just watching how things have escalated, even in the entertainment industry. It's like there is some, like, the Mayans weren't wrong when they were warning us about solar activity increasing and the things on the planet Earth changing. And it's almost like they were warning us in 2012 that, like, hey, you got 10 years to prepare, because in 2022, stuff's going to start going crazy. And in 2022, if you've been paying attention, not only did we move into solar maximum, because it actually is a 10 to 15 year period, I believe, but the Earth's core stopped rotating. And this wasn't big news at the time, because we were just coming out of COVID, and, aliens had been admitted, and, all this crazy stuff had actually come into the world because, COVID threw us for a swing. But it is something that actually came out, was that the Earth's core stopped spinning. And then in about like a year later, it reversed directions. And there's only one effect when you take that much of moving fluid, stop it, and then reverse directions, and then have a impact of kind of radiation that would disrupt the actual flow of the magma, and disrupt, like, the magnetism of air. It's like it all makes sense when you start looking at all these things coming together. And it's almost like, and then again, I start going, well, why didn't they warn us? What are they going to do? There's literally, even if higher ups knew that we were going to have increasingly worse storms, that volcanoes were going to erupt, what honestly were they going to do? If they released it to the public that they knew all this, the general public are herd animals. Individuals are smart, but you take a general public and a general group of people, and unfortunately they've got a herd mentality. And that's kind of what happened. And so for those of us that have slowly been figuring it out, and for those of us that are willing to actually listen and pay attention, it's one of those things where I said, we're going to have to start preparing. And if you haven't started preparing, start preparing, because it's going to get worse. Yes, Cora, the world is very scary, and it's going to get worse. This is just the start of it, from what my angels tell me. So it's one of those things where it's just like, we're not looking at like losing our entire infrastructure. From what I understand from the other side, is they're like, we've got to kind of actually keep the infrastructure in place. That we've advanced too much as humans in regards to electricity and plumbing and that kind of stuff. However, Mother Nature's sick, and she has a right to do what she needs to do to heal herself. And if it is world ending, but not to the point that like we're going to lose electricity. If that makes sense to anybody. From what I understand, we're still going to have cell phones. We're still going to have electricity. Satellites are not going to go falling out of the sky type thing, but we are going to have a major shift. And this is from what And this is why it makes me uncomfortable. And also I need proof. For those of you that know me, already know, for those who don't, I'm always 70-30. 70% of the time I believe it. 30% I'm like, hey, I kind of need some facts. I'm very lawyerly, and you need to give me some actual physical representation of stuff that's actually going to happen. And unfortunately, when I check on this stuff, they're like, have we not, in this, even just this last year, given you enough evidence to show you that, hey, yeah, there's a huge shift about to occur. Huge. And the truth is, it doesn't even matter how much money you have. It's going to come down to how smart you are, if you survive it or not. Because I'm hearing, like, most of the people that are millionaires never spent the time to figure out how to scrounge for food. And that's where the difference is going to be. Because even though we have electricity, plumbing, and infrastructure in the locations that get hit, if you don't know how to scourge and look for food, you may not be able to find it. So if you're not the type of person that's ever had to actually survive, you might not make it in the next 5 to 10 years. And that actually is what scares me the most. So we'll see what happens, because yeah, and I see just things getting bigger. But, and on that happy note, wow, doomsday. I didn't mean to bring doom and gloom and sadness to everybody. So on a happier note, let's bring in this last little interesting tidbit that I found out that's going to revolutionize my world of Monopoly. Did you know there was the original creator of Monopoly created 2 sets of rules? One is the rules that Hasbro and whatever else ran with when they printed the game. The other set is called the prosperity rules. And it's all about sharing the wealth and helping the poorest person double their money. And I haven't done my research on it. I'm going to do my research on it, but I was mind blown when I was like, wait, you mean to tell me that there's actually another version of this game that I might like? Because I hate Monopoly, because I'm like, this is not a money. I hate the money grabs. I like, even down to a Monopoly game. I hate the money grabs. I've always been this way, even as a kid. And truthfully, with the Hasbro rules, we don't have very good family memories of Monopoly. More often than not, the game got thrown in anger by some adult figure in the family because of tempers. So if I could find out that there's a whole new set of rules that will make Monopoly actually fun for me again, yeah, Kibby's going to do her research on that, because that blew my mind. I was like, why didn't they print them with both rules? Anyway, or design the game just slightly differently with different colors and everything else, and then print it with the prosperity rules. You could have doubled your money. But then again, I have an active imagination, and I can come up with these things off the top of my head. So that's what happens. Anyway, let's go ahead and add and share my screen. And I hate that layout. So we're going to switch into that layout, because that's the layout I like. So we're going to hop into 20 minutes. I'm going to see if I can put on some music, because somebody recommended that I can actually, yes, it is down here, that I can actually put on some music while I'm muted and my timer goes. So let's see what we got here. We got Intro to Space, Feeding the Duck. Hey, Cora, let me know which one do you like the best? And then we've got Daydreaming, Dance Pop. Let me know which one you think we should go with here. You're more of a cool player. Yeah. Oh, really? I never thought about that. Okay, and then we got Lofty and Night Driving. I think I like the Daydreaming. What do you think? Should we roll with that? I think we're going to roll with that with the timer. So I am going to start this timer. We're going to have the Daydreaming playing in the background for the timer music. And I Miss Cora. It's probably, I have a feeling you responded, but it's like lag time on my end and your end with StreamYard. So I like it. Yep. The second one, maybe. It's hard for me to hear because I'm in the waiting room. That's fine. See, and I had a feeling you responded and there was just a delay. And this was the second one. So yeah, I think we're going to go with that one. All right. So in 3, 2, 1. Well, I know you. I'm not surprised considering how loud I am. And what I tend to talk about, oh girl, no, you should have your earbuds in. Like I am such an I'm an earbuds required type podcaster. Anyway, we're gonna start this in sprint in 3, 2, 1. And off. Off. No music. Okay. Is that the music off? Is the music off? Is that how we turn the music off? I hope so. Pause. There we go. Oh yeah, pause it. Okay, so it's the first time I'm using music. Okay, forgive me. Anyway, Cora hopped in here. There's got to be a way to not have, or to have multiple windows where I don't have the comments on one section and this on another. Edited one page, and now we have to drive as the store to get to the store before we go home, which I read that and I immediately was like, oh yeah, I need to go to Walmart. So thank you for reminding me, because I ended up having to make myself a little note to go to Walmart, which I threw down there. So I ended up getting a little bit more done than I expected to on that sprint. I actually got all the notes for the prosperity directions on how to play the prosperity game from Monopoly. And I'm actually really surprised on, like, I'm going to bring this up to my family the next time we play, because evidently there's supposed to be no trespassing signs, number one, which I was like, really? I could make little no trespassing signs. They would be so cute too. So, but evidently if you land on a no trespassing sign, you go to jail. And then you just immediately go to jail and you have to start from jail again. Then I guess the difference between the old rules and the prosperity rules is mainly that all players, the way they worded it, and I had to look this up, is all players are rewarded during wealth creation. And I was like, what does that mean? So basically I found a Reddit that broke it down, and it's, so evidently you remove the square that makes you go to jail if you land on it. So there's no going directly to jail just by landing on it. You go to jail if you can't pay your rent to somebody. And the same rules apply if you're in jail, but the difference is the only time you go to jail is if you can't pay rent to somebody. Okay. So the next thing is that they remove the income tax square. You don't pay income tax, and you pull the cards. There's no income tax cards in the orange or yellow piles. The next thing is they remove the railroads are free. So if you land on a railroad, it's free. The next thing is the utilities are also free, which I found was interesting. The next thing is the rent goes to the free parking. So anytime you pay rent, it doesn't go to the individual, it goes into the free parking. That rule I have a little bit of a question on. And then the third rule was one that we actually do already, which I was wondering where they got this rule. But every time you purchase a property, instead of that going to the bank, it goes into free parking. So evidently those are the difference between regular Monopoly rules and prosperity Monopoly rules. And I thought that was pretty interesting, because I'm actually going to bring that up to my family the next time that we play Monopoly and be like, hey, let's try. It might be a little bit difficult because we're all so used to the old ways, but that might be a little bit of fun. And then I actually got quite a few notes done on the outline for my book. I'm in a little bit of a complicated part, and I can actually pull this up and show you guys, because this gives you kind of a little bit of an idea of what I'm dealing with. So this is the outline for my book, for the second book. And it starts up here, and there's the outline for the second book. As you can see, it is 3,073 words. This is just the outline. And I have to add all of this to that. So I was able to get actually a really good majority done here, detailing Aries' trip with Petunia through to actually meet some of the townsfolk that are there, because yeah, this is when she finds out that she is not alone in this history that she somewhat remembers. And also the townspeople are kind of like, wait, she's alive? Wait, we thought, wait. So this chapter is actually really important because it's kind of when the townspeople start realizing that something is not right. Something is wrong here. Something is off. This person should not be here anymore. And yet they're sitting here walking in front of us and talking to us clear as day. And not only that, but they obviously don't remember anything that happened. And for them to not remember anything that happened, yeah. So I was able to get a little bit more done on that. So that's what my sprint was doing. Cora, I hope she got home safe and that she was able to stop by the store the way she needed to, because gosh knows that can be difficult with a little one. And the next, but we are going to cover, so I covered actually a lot more talking points than I expected to on the last little thing, but we're going to dive into the next one because yeah, we covered a lot. Okay. A lot. I didn't even get to this. Okay. So the next thing that we're going to cover is the Disney controversy. Okay. So the whole reason that I'm into Disney, some of you are going to be like, oh God, Disney. I know. Some of you are into Disney, some of you aren't. I am a huge Disney fan simply because not only had I gone there since pretty much the day I was born, because I was born and raised in San Diego, California. But we also, my family had season passes. And since I was 9 years old, my mother, as a choir director, would take 60 or 70 students once a month to Disneyland, Magic Mountain, and Universal Studios. And not only that, but in 1994, was it 94? No, 92. It was 92. My mom actually did one of the few workshops that Disney put on for the schools where it was a 2-day, and we ended up spending the night in the hotel. And oh, do I have some story times about that, because let's just say that was a one and done when it came to whatever happened with what happened with that hotel and the whole, why Disney would think it was smart to put the chaperones on one floor and all the students that are middle schoolers on a completely other floor is beyond me. However, that is what happened. That's what my mother had to deal with. I got to watch the entire chaos happen from a balcony because, of course, my mother was in charge of everything. So guess where she harbored her little daughter? Like, do not step foot out of this room. Yes, ma'am. So I have sometime I'll have to share on TikTok some of those story times about the Disney trip. But I am highly invested in Disney. I even worked for Disney for a little bit when I was 17, 18 years old. I have met both Eisner and Bob Iger. So I have a lot of investment, I guess, in Disney. Also, as a psychic, Disney was a very powerful force, both in living and in past. And there is energy on the other side that it's kind of funny because I swear I was talking to Disney and he said with this whole new Snow White thing, he's like, I'm rolling over in my grave more times than you can think of. And then then there was a news article I read where I guess Disney's grandkids came out and said, Disney would be rolling over in his grave if he saw what was happening here. And I don't disagree. So it's one of those things. And I want to touch base on this Snow White and Rachel Zegler DEI woke initiative that seems to be taking over the internet. It's taking over the internet, taking over the world. And this is actually kind of hard for me to do because truthfully, at the beginning of this whole movement, I was kind of for the woke and DEI. However, I am against being given an inch and taking like an extraordinary amount of miles. And that seems to have what happened with this whole woke initiative. It's not that I feel like it wasn't so much of us wanting to change the world as more of along lines of being finally acknowledged and represented in the world. And it seems like this movement became a woke wave that just crashed and is now literally drowning everybody to the point that they just want to run from it. And as a liberal lesbian, this is actually very controversial for me to discuss, but I understand an equal balance. We need to have just as much Republican as Democratic, as liberal, as conservative, as it needs to be an equal balance. That's what made America great in the first place. Not one dominating the other. It was an equal balance. And that's what our forefathers wanted. And we've got to stop taking original ideas that worked back when they worked and try to conform them to a new age when the new age is so far disassociated from what happened. And that's what happened with Snow White. And that's why it's failing. Snow White, Disney created Snow White because it was his last-ditch effort to make money off of his one thing that he loved. Correct me if I'm wrong, which I'm sure the internet will do, but Disney's wife, there was a story I heard or read it, and it was about how Disney's wife basically told Disney, look, if Snow White doesn't work out, if you don't make money off of Snow White, because they were basically going into debt trying to make Snow White, she said, you're doing a regular job. Like, you're giving up on this and you're going to start a regular job. We've got a family here that you need to make money for. And I need you to kind of be the breadwinner. and that might mean giving up on your dream. And Disney, like, I just got goosebumps because it's almost like Disney is telling me, which I could be wrong, but it's almost like Disney is telling me, look, that's Snow White was my dream. It was the one shot at me putting my heart out to the world and having them accept it with everything they've got. And for the company that he built from this one movie and this one dream to literally come back this many years later and cause this much destruction to a fairy tale that needs to keep its originality, even in a society that has become what we've become. That's why it's failing. It's almost like Disney's like, dude, you need to hire new Imagineers. Like, we need to bring the imagination back. Like, that's where Disney's power and pride came from, was his imagination. Not everybody has as an active imagination as a lot of us writers out here. And a lot of it, like, especially, like, I hear all the time that I have one of the most amazingly active imaginations. So we need to bring the Imagineers back to Disney if we want to save Disney. And here's another thing. Where is it? You see this book? Some of you need to go buy this book and read the original fairy tales. Read the original fairy tales before you decide to go around and recreate something. Because the truth is, you can recreate something as long as you stick to the core morale and story and message of the material. Because you completely diverted from the original storyline of Snow White is why it didn't work. So, and not only that, but truthfully, and this is in my opinion, I do believe that the Snow White probably could have done kind of well. However, when you are given the amazing ability and chance to be part of a project like that, the last thing you want to do is go out of your way to sabotage yourself with your own mouth, with your own words. sometimes in this world, you are going to have to bow your head with a little bit of pride and understand that there's a course of action to take at different times. And sometimes you're going to need to shut your mouth. Whether you want to be standing on your soapbox or not, you know, there's a time and a place. And I really honestly believe that if Rachel had chosen to kind of take the positioning that Gal Gadot did in all of this, it probably wouldn't have been the cataclysmic crash into the wall that it's inevitably being. I am absolutely appalled by the movie, or correction, I was not so much liking the movie. I wasn't necessarily going to go out of my way to see it. No. Did I disagree with it that much? Not really. I figured, hey, you know what? They tried something new. It didn't work. They'll learn from their experience and move on. It wasn't until I started hearing the interviews that I literally was like, are you kidding me? Like, shut your mouth. Shut your mouth and stop blaming other people having opinions for the fact that something is not working out. We are entitled to our opinions. And just because we have an opinion doesn't mean you get to name call us into being certain things. And that's another thing that the mainstream media really needs to stop doing, is name calling. Like, stop putting identifications on people unless they identify it for themselves. So that's my little rant on that. Also, Disney, if you really need something new and something imaginative, I've got a whole book and series that you could work off of that is right down Disney alley. And hire me for $50,000 a year, give me 10% of the proceeds, and I'll work as an Imagineer for you for a couple of years, for, you know, as long as you need for my book. Like, seriously, if you need something new, here you go. Anyway, so we're actually going to, on that note, we're going to jump into another stream because I got some work done and I hear some noise upstairs and people are not supposed to be home. So I am just going to go double check and make sure that whoever is upstairs is supposed to be upstairs. And that honestly comes from being homeless and being robbed and everything else. So, and I will see you guys. We're going to put our music up here. We're going to daydreaming it is. We're going to play this. We're going to turn the volume up. And 3, 2, 1. Hello, hello, and we're back. We're back from that sprint. Hello, hello. All right, so again, I got a little bit done that sprint. Did a little bit of research for my book again because, yeah, as I started going over the outline in the notes, I started realizing that I was like, wait, so Ari meets up with Eli and Isabella first, and then it moves to Kinsley, and then Kinsley takes them to the creek. Well, pulled out my little map because I was like, wait, isn't there a wall they have to get through to get to the penitentiary? And yes, there is. Not only that, but I noticed that I had Kinsley up here and Isabella and Eli here. And I was like, that's not going to work for multiple reasons. A, Kinsley does cows. He has all of the meat. He can't have that small of a property if you're going to have cows grazing. Second, Eli and Isabella were first on their little trek out of town. Now, that wouldn't make any sense that they would go from here to here, then to the marsh. So I had to change some things up on my map. Luckily, I didn't have to change it up on my book because that would have been a heck of a lot more confusing. But I am now struggling because I have it where literally, so they went from the town to Isabella and Eli's. Then they went to Kinsley's. Now they're right at the creek where the cattails are, and they're trying to get across this open area to get through the wall to the moor, or to the penitentiary. And it doesn't look like it on the map, but the distance between where they are in the creek and where the wall is actually quite a distance that you can see that area from this tower. And that just happens to so be the mistress's suite where she stands and looks out the window all the time. So they're now trying to figure out how the heck they're going to do this. And as I was writing, I was like, so you make it across. Okay, so you're in the cattails, you're standing in the moor. And then all of a sudden I have you rounding the outside of the penitentiary. Like, there's a wall you have to get through, ding dong. So now I have to add in how they're going to get through the wall. I do mention in my notes here that Ari watches Petunia go through the wall. And now I have to remember, I need to go, I've got to, the way I have to do this is literally, I have to now pull up the dream in my head, go through the dream again in my head, figure out what I meant by her going through a hole in the wall. Because here's the thing, Petunia is not only a cat, but she's also a ghost. So I got to figure out what is going on with that. But so that's where I am with my book. That's what I did during the sprint. And also I did go upstairs and check to see who was home. And I do have to share with you, my mother did her baking, and she made some majorly delicious cookies, double chocolate cookies here. And they are like, so I made the mistake of taste testing, and now my mouth is just continuously salivating over what is absolutely scrumdiddlyumptious cookies. So I am now teasing myself. I might have to go put these over there because honestly, all I want to do is just eat these cookies. But I had to show them off because my mother is an amazing chef. I should be 300 pounds. I'm grateful that I was blessed with a fast metabolism. That's why I'm not. But I had to show those off because homemade double chocolate cookies, I am in heaven. All right, so I might have to do some more research and come up with some more talking points because I've kind of covered everything. We're going to do one more sprint after this, and then it's going to be the end of it because I promised myself that I wouldn't stream for more than 2 hours because for those of you that are interested in hearing any of the missing talking points and don't want to go back to listen to the sprints, I do condense the sprint videos down to just the talking points. And I'm going to start posting those regularly on Mondays. And I don't want to sit and listen to myself talk for 5 hours to have to reduce the videos down to just the talking points. And they end up coming out to be about 20-30 minutes long. And I know I talk fast, but YouTube also slows down my videos when they upload them because I talk so fast. I don't know if it's the AI or whatever. So if you're like me, just put it at your normal speed that you would listen to, which for me is 1.75. Yes, I listen to everybody and every video on 1.75 speed. Why? That's how fast my brain computes the information. Okay. So it'll reduce the video down to like 10-15 minutes. And then, yeah. And that's another thing. If you're worried, if you're like, oh my God, how do I watch all these videos? Speed them up. You'd be surprised how, like, especially if you're ADD, you'd be impressed with yourself of how much information you actually pick up and retain with it at a faster speed. So, and this is something that I've helped a lot of people with, that, college students, if you're in college and you're suffering through those lectures, record them, go home, listen to them on a faster speed. I guarantee you'll pick up more information. Okay, so, and then the next thing I want to talk about is another thing that I just recently found. It's been around, I guess, for the last 2 years, but it's new to me, so I'm going to share it. I am a huge Dance Moms fan. I have been a Dance Moms fan since it came out originally. My ex-husband can contest that, yes, this is one of the few shows that, I would actually sit down every week and make sure that I watched. I was obsessed. I related so much with Chloe Lukasiak. I related so much with JoJo Siwa, with Kendall. There was just a lot of stuff because my mother is a director and a choreographer, and I know the entertainment industry ins and outs, fronts and backs. From the producer's level to what it's like being in the front of the camera to what it's being behind the camera. I watched Dance Moms with a whole different eye than most people. And I remember watching a lot of the stuff go down and thinking to myself, that is producer created. That is producer created. That was producer recreated. Like they're listening. I remember specifically saying at one point, they're listening to these moms and then creating storylines off of what these moms are saying. I'm like, these moms almost just need to be told, like, the producers don't have your back. Like, the producers are trying to make a show that they're getting paid for. Like, that's what you need to be focusing on and looking at and doing. So, and like, you need to pay attention that the producers are not going to cover your back. If there's stuff going down that you don't like or you're objective to or whatever, don't think that they're going to have your best interest in mind. You're going to have to put your foot down. You're going to have to learn the word no and be firm with it. And I remember watching a lot of this stuff thinking, wow, I wonder if these moms eventually are going to go back and look at this and be like, why did I let this happen? And not only that, but as somebody who suffers from major mental illness, who has been in psychology and therapy since I was 7, has been, recently was able in the last 5 years to get off of all medication and be somewhat normal. I watched a lot of what was going on and being like, do they not realize the damage that they're doing to these kids? Like, kids are not stupid. I remember stuff from when I was 2 years old. I have memories where I recall an old Volkswagen Bug that we had when I was 2 years old that my parents swore they got rid of when I was like 3. And I remember crawling into the back of it. So kids remember. And I remember watching the show, thinking, I can't wait to hear from these kids in 10, 15 years. And then just recently, it's kind of funny, I moved back to Spokane in January of this year. And because I didn't have my stuff and I didn't, I was really just trying to preoccupy myself with stuff. I own Dance Moms on, I've purchased every season. I have it. That's how obsessed with it I am. I actually own it. And I binge watched for the beginning of this year. And I thought it was coincidental because I started hearing conversation about Dance Moms, like reigniting at the beginning of this year. And I was like, well, isn't that interesting? I just literally binge watched the whole thing again. And then the reunion happened. And then everything I said that was inevitably going to come to light happened. And we're watching these girls who have overcome traumas that most people will not even touch on in their lives. And they're only 20 years old and have overcome these things for the most part. Will you ever completely overcome them? No. Inevitably, they will define who you are and who you become in the future. However, the fact that they are successful young ladies graduating colleges, starting businesses, and literally living life and not hiding themselves up in a closet or in a room or just being completely disappearing from public eye. I think it's absolutely courageous, and they need some whatever. They need a lot of we need to acknowledge just how proud of a society we are at these girls for going through what they did and coming out on the other side the way they have. So here's my props to you young ladies for doing that. If there's anybody who knows how hard it is to be taken down and dragged through the mud and had to rebuild and reclimb, I know how hard it is. And so I just wanted to give a public, like, yeah, don't worry, girls. You got so many people who have your back and understand. And on that note, I started noticing all this stuff flying up for dance moms on TikTok, on YouTubes. People started reacting to YouTubes. And through one of these reaction videos, they mentioned that Christy Lukasiak and Kelly Highland, who are my two favorite dance moms of all time, always, forever, had a podcast. And I remember screaming out loud because, don't get me wrong, I knew Melissa, Holly, and the other moms had a podcast called Mother Says So or something like that. And I listened to a few episodes, but truthfully, I was just like, I loved Kelly and Christy. I can relate so much with their personalities and their quips and their thought process that I miss them. And then to find out that they actually have a podcast called Back to the Bar. So for any of you dance mom fans out there that are like me and you want kind of the inside scoop and story on things, I highly recommend Back to the Bar because, and this is another reason why I fell in love even more with Kelly and Christy. They're real. They're honest. If they did something in the past that they now look at and are like, wow, they don't deny it. They own up to it and apologize for it. They literally, my motto is acknowledgement, accountability, and change. And I don't know of two people that have dealt, who were maybe not the best to people in the past, who have literally applied that message to their lives. So if you want inside scoop, inside gossip, because they go through the whole, they have somebody, I guess, that watches the episodes, makes down all the notes and detail of what happens through each episode. So they explain to you what happens through each episode, and then they give their input on the backside. And for you drinkers out there, I can't play along because I'm not a drinker. I prefer herbal refreshments of the other kind, but they do drinking games along with the giving the back details and everything else about the storylines. So I have literally been binge listening to their podcast. I forget where I am, but yeah. Well, hold on, let me look. I kind of want to look. Look at that. September Backwards Skate, which was their September 18th, 2023 episode. And here's another thing. I'm panicking because I'm like, what's going to happen when I hit the end? Because yes, they do them once a week, but they only do them once a week. And I'm catching up. I'm like watching 5 a day. So, but I love it. Yeah, see, it's kind of funny. Here are the podcasts I listen to. Because mom said so. Alternate reality, like everything's dance moms. It's so funny. Dance moms and Emily D. Baker. Go figure. And yes, I when dance moms coalesced with Emily D. Baker because of the federal stuff. Oh my gosh! Can I just say I was fangirling like a little baby? Anyway, so that is another thing. So if I end up talking about things regarding dance moms and back to the bar and that kind of stuff, that is something that I am going to touch on topic wise every now and then. So for those who watch the sprints, I'm sorry, bear with me. Just kind of hear me mindlessly ramble in the background. For those who are watching the talking points, go ahead and skip. Just skip right past. I do the same thing on, other people's. But with that note, we're actually going to do our last sprint for the afternoon, or for those of you on the East Coast for the evening, for those of us on the West Coast, the afternoon. So one last 20-minute sprint, and then we're going to actually end this session. I do have one other announcement that I'm going to make, and I will need, if you guys want to, I will need your input on it, but we'll talk about that coming up. So we're going to bring my mouse back to my computer. We're going to turn on Z music right here, and I will see you guys in 3, 2. And that's the end of that sprint. Okay, so that's the end of that sprint. Again, I got a lot of work done. And I also figured out a little bit on my timeline, because I guess when I made my notes on here, I didn't realize that on here, that's not, there we go. On here, what I didn't realize is that I had moved Howard and Jacob's timeline. I switched them. And the only notation I made to myself was Jacob storyline. So for a minute there, I was like, huh? Because I couldn't find where it picked up. And when I did Howard here, the first four bullet points is what you see. It started with coven members. So I definitely had to do a little bit of maneuvering on that to figure out what the heck I was doing to myself, because like I said, I made that outline at the same time that I was making my first book, when I did the book outline for the first book, and some things didn't pan out the way they were supposed to. So I had to go back. Yeah. With how much I have in my head of this stuff and how much I have to remember, it amazes me sometimes that I'm actually able to remember. For instance, that part with Melinda and how they got access to the wall, I remembered, I jumped into the memory and the dream, and I was able to recall how they did it. So I was able to write that up. So that's what I was able to get done. I got a lot more done on my outline than I thought. I need to start working on my actual book and getting it edited. That is going to be the priority of next week's sprint. I wanted to ask anybody who watches, and for those that are watching right now, you can leave this in the current comments, but anybody else, go ahead and comment on the video. How do you feel about me doing sprints twice a week? Because I was thinking of, I have a client that I usually see every Tuesday, standing appointment, but my Wednesday, I don't know if I'm going to have a Wednesday standing appointment with a client. And if I don't, I was thinking of maybe streaming on Wednesdays and Thursdays, or doing Thursdays and Sundays. But I was thinking of starting to stream twice a week so that I can do one stream working on the outline and the other stream on my actually editing the book. Because if I sit here and try to edit my book without doing a stream, I will end up working for like 10 hours straight, completely overworking myself, crashing to the point that I'm like not wanting to touch my book in months. And that's exactly why I picked up the sprints, because I tried to do that at the beginning of the year, and that's exactly what happened. And for some reason in my head, I had this idea that I had changed so much that wouldn't be the case. Some things stay the same. So I might start streaming twice a week. So we've got, oh, you made it home. Yay. I'm glad you made it home and safe. I'm cool with sprints twice a week. Wednesdays is a video editing day for me. Then I might just do that. Since you're responding and you usually are the one who comes in the most while I'm actually streaming, I might just do that. And I'm going to have to start taking more notes for talking points, but so that I have something to cover between the sprints. However, I think that's what I'm going to do, so that I have one day where I can actually work on the outline for the second book, and one day where I'm editing for the first book. And that way I can kill two birds with one stone and go from there. So that's keep an eye out. That's probably what's going to end up happening. I'll wait a little bit longer to get a response from everybody else, but that might be what we end up doing. The other thing that I wanted to discuss is I'm looking at possibly investing in doing Shopify. I've thought about investing in it before. However, I didn't get a response on it before. And so I didn't follow through with it. Something now is telling me that I should look into getting the Shopify. So if there's anybody out there that uses Shopify, that works with Shopify, that can give me a rundown if it's easy or not, I would really appreciate it, because I have a lot of artwork that's sitting in a bin right now. And winter is coming in Spokane. So being able to get out for art shows for the next couple months is not going to happen. We deal with snow here, and outside events pretty much go into hibernation. So I was thinking of doing, for at least the winter, seeing if Shopify will work. So if there's anybody out there who'd be interested in even just maybe even looking at my art on Shopify, let me know. And also, if you work with Shopify, let me know if it's worth it. Is it worth the investment if you don't really have a, like, I know Emily D. Baker and people like that use it, but is it worth it for people, for the creators who maybe don't have as big of a corner in the market? I guess that's what I'm asking. So we have hit the 2-hour mark, and I have told myself that I'm only going to be streaming for 2 hours. So we are going to leave it at that. And I'm going to say thank you, Miss Cora, for coming in again and giving me somebody to talk to, so I'm not just feeling like I'm rambling speaking to myself. And for everybody else, please like and subscribe, leave any comments, and you leave your input on the talking points. I do read over the comments. For some reason, YouTube doesn't always alert me to them, but I do go back and watch the video, so I usually see the comments then. And give me your 2 cents on some of the talking points that I put in. Also, have a wonderful day. For you Floridians, again, please be safe. There's a lot of people out here sending you guys healing and protective energy. And I will more than likely see you guys either, we might do it on Sunday, we might not. It might just stick to Wednesday. We'll see. Keep an eye out, because there might be another live stream populating. Until then, you guys have a wonderful day, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.